Hey guys, what's going on here? It's Readout Productions, and this is a bit of a different video. I was not planned to be making this today, but when I woke up this morning and turned on the computer, the first thing I saw was something I thought I honestly would never see, especially not this quickly. After 107 years, the Endurance, the ship for the Shackleton expedition, has at last been found. It was located in the Weddell Sea off of the northern Antarctic coast, and was located in nearly 10,000 feet of water. Now, there have been expeditions trying to locate the shipwreck for the past 20 years. The crew that finally did it was the expedition known as Endurance 22. They're funded by the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust and have been using a South African icebreaker, the SA Agulhas 2. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Again, I'm just getting this information in right now, try to compile it together. They've been using a unit known as an AOV, an autonomous underwater vehicle, which allows for underwater exploration over 100 miles from the mothership. The Endurance has been elusive due to the fact it's almost always under heavy sheets of ice, and like I said, I never really expected anybody to find it. Now, why is this so important? What is so important about this wooden ship under the Antarctic Sea? Well, if you've not heard the story of the Shackleton expedition, you've probably been seeing some of the images passing through on the screen right now. You've probably seen at least one of these images before in your life. Back in 1914, Ernest Shackleton took an expedition down to Antarctica, and their mission was to cross Antarctica on foot from one end to the other. The expedition left in 1914, got down to South Georgia Island, which has a whaling station. Most expeditions would meet at that whaling station. The Endurance did in 1914, and off it set down into the Weddell Sea. Had on board a crew of about 28 men, 69 Canadian sled dogs, and one ship's captain. Cat. Well, you know, cats tend to rule everything, so maybe it was the actual captain. Who knows? So, what ended up happening was, in December of 1914, they got stuck in the ice of the Weddell Sea, and the ice just sort of drifted them north up through the sea. They were stuck in the ice for about 9 or 10 months. They got trapped in January of 1915, and in October of 1915, the ice started pushing in upon the hull of the ship. Now, a little bit about the Endurance. It was built in 1912 by a Norwegian shipyard. Initially, it was being designed to be used as basically a glorified yacht to take tourists through the Arctic Ocean. Those ventures never came to pass, and instead, Shackleton purchased the Endurance, which originally was actually called the Polaris, at a very affordable cost because nobody wanted it right now. Nobody wanted this yacht. It's 144 feet long, 25 feet wide, and weighs over 300 tons. 4 pieces of solid oak make up its keel, so that's about 85 inches thick of solid oak making up the keel. 50-inch thick worth of the bow, and essentially how they made the bow was each oak used in making the bow of the Endurance is it's a different tree. It's from a different tree to make it as strong as possible to cut through the ice. The hull itself, at average, is 30 inches thick and is made of oak and firm planks held in place by Greenheart. There are 3 masts and a steam engine that would allow the Endurance to go through the Weddell Sea at 10.2 knots. I think it's pretty fast, especially going through the Antarctic Ocean. Now, arguably what the flaw of the ship comes back to the fact it was not designed for exploration of the Antarctic. It was designed to be basically a yacht for the Arctic, to take tourists and show them the cool sights that have been discovered in the Arctic recently. So while there were similar ships at the time that were designed for expedition purposes, a lot of them, the bottom of the ship would allow it to kind of pop out over the ice and not get crushed. While the Endurance was designed to withstand the pressures of ice, it was not meant to get stuck in the ice and be drifted through ice. And ultimately, that's probably what ended up sinking it in October, November of 1915. Now, when the Endurance ultimately went under, Shackleton ordered the ship abandoned, taking only necessaries that they needed. In fact, the photographer, Frank Hurley, he had taken over 600 slides of the expedition. Shackleton forced him to break all but 100 right there on the ice. They only took the barest of essentials. They made camp on the drift after the Endurance sunk. They remained on the ice floe until they were able to use free surviving lifeboats to get across the ocean to Elephant Island in April of 1916, although they were basically stuck at that point. The nearest point of civilization, which was South Georgia Island, was over 800 miles away. Shackleton and a team of 5 others boarded one of the lifeboats that James carried and took an 800-mile voyage from Elephant Island to South Georgia Island, making it there by May of 1916. They had then across about 20 miles of ground over the island, finally getting back to that whaling station. And you could probably imagine the shock on the faces of the people at the whaling station. Here's this crew that they'd seen off 2 years ago, and here they come, tattered and bruised, but remarkably alive. Unfortunately, the crew was not out of the woods yet. Although Shackleton had gotten to Georgia Island, they could not get through the ice back to Elephant Island. It took 4 tries throughout the summer of 1916 to break through the ice, but finally in late August of that year, a Chilean tug that was given to Shackleton finally broke through to Elephant Island, and all of the crew had survived and were rescued, and they were back in London by October of 1916, just in time to get recruited into this First World War. So at the time, this great story of survival really got lost in the pages due to what was going on in Europe, and I can only imagine the shock on some of the crew's faces. Now, I forget exactly when do the Archduke and Duchesses get shot in Austria. I think it would have been sometime after Shackleton's crew had left, basically, civilization. You can only imagine how the crew felt when they got back to the ports in Britain. You know, they went from being this big expedition going on this world, basically, you know, going to the farthest reaches of the world, and they come back and they've survived this great story, and nobody cares, and they're being enlisted to go fight in Europe. In more recent years, however, the Shackleton expedition has been recognized for its story of human survival. I consider it one of the, if not the greatest stories of human survival, especially in the early 20th century. It is crazy that these people were able to survive for almost 2 years, you know, and gradually just their whole situation deteriorating. And finally, they have found the Endurance in almost perfect condition. Obviously, there's damage from when the ice crushed it and it went under, but other than that, it looks to be in the condition it was the day it went down in 1915. So this video is very rambly, and I apologize for that, but I could not believe when I woke up and saw this news. I had to do a video about it to commemorate this moment. Now, what is in store for the future of the Endurance? Well, Endurance 22 plan to do a 3D scan of the entire wreck and be able to preserve it for future generations. They will not salvage anything from the wreck. It is now a historic site and landmark under the Antarctic Treaty. Well, thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you're excited as I am for this breaking news. This is big news for the history community. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button below. If you want to see more like this, subscribe to Readout Productions. I don't normally do news updates like this. Maybe I can do that as a new thing when we get more groundbreaking news in the history community. We'll just see. Thank you for watching. See you the next time.